I think it's a perfect example of Disney's incompetence where they killed off the only character that most people really liked from the sequel trilogy. And it really isn't anything to do with the writing. I think it's mostly just the performance from Adam Driver that people really connected with. And I've said this in a previous video, but if he had lived, there may have been some hope for the continuation of the sequel trilogy story, but having to rely on Rey Palpatine, like, good luck. Good luck getting anyone to care about that. And something that I didn't think really worked for Kylo's character was this legacy of Vader thing that they are pushing, that they were pushing in The Force Awakens and that they're pushing in these comics now. If Ben Solo knows that Vader is his grandfather, shouldn't he also know that he sacrificed his life to save Luke? Like, sure, Anakin fell to the dark side and did a bunch of evil stuff. However, he died to save his son. He didn't die this evil dark villain, he died a father protecting his son from Palpatine. And you know, maybe that is explored in these comics that I probably will never read, but it wasn't explained at all in The Force Awakens when we're introduced to this idea where Ben says he's trying to finish what Vader started, whatever that means. Like, is he talking about killing all the Jedi? Is he talking about taking over the galaxy? What does he mean? And again, maybe it's explained in these comics that I haven't read, but did they show Kylo's purge of Luke's Jedi Order? And what happened to some of the students that left with Kylo that we're told about? Why wouldn't Disney do more with that? You could easily just say, some of them could still be alive, some of them could be Dark Jedi. As Rey is reforming the Jedi Order, they could be reforming the Brotherhood of Darkness or something. Like, they could have found Palpatine's Sith holocrons maybe, and they're learning the ways of the Sith through them, but I don't want to give Disney any ideas, especially ones that I just came up with right on the spot, which I don't think is too different from their creative process. But yeah, there's going to be this new Marvel Star Wars Legacy of Vader comic, exploring Kylo's role as the supreme leader in between The Last Jedi and The Rise of Skywalker, which I think is only like a year. They really should have done the Return of the Jedi thing where it's like a few years after Empire Strikes Back. That way they would have had a much larger time period to work with for this character of Kylo Ren, but they only have a year and whatever happens prior to The Force Awakens. And here's a section of this article talking about this period of time. Kylo is truly lost at this particular moment. In a very short span of time, he's faced two of his most significant mentors in combat, killed his own father, almost killed his mother, and stolen control of a galaxy-level military that he has no idea how to use. You don't say. You don't say. I don't understand the First Order or how they even came about. No thought was put into any of this, clearly. But we know that. Like, the thought that they could turn Ilum into Starkiller Base without anyone in the New Republic ever noticing is so insane. And I have just started reading The Hand of Thrawn, and it opens with Pelion saying, well, you know, we don't have the resources to manufacture enough TIE fighters for our ships. They have one like shipyard where they can build ships. So where are the First Order getting all their materials from? Where are they manufacturing all of these weapons, all this armor, all these TIE fighters, all this technology? Where is it coming from? And how could all of these resources go to this Imperial remnant, I assume on Ilum, without the New Republic noticing? Ever. Not to mention the supremacy, that absurd, massive floating capital, I think it's called, that is never mentioned in The Force Awakens because it didn't exist until they started writing The Last Jedi. Just like all of those Star Destroyers with Death Star cannons on Exegol didn't exist until they started writing that third film. That's why I had this idea that the First Order is a separate Imperial remnant from Thrawn's forces. And they have their own agenda, and they're the ones working on the cloning. They're the ones working on bringing Palpatine back. What they should do is introduce some Sith or dark side user to act as a supreme leader in between Return of the Jedi and when Snoke takes over. And you know what? You could bring in Thrawn's plot from the EU where he's cloning people. You could have the Sith troopers with their red armor. You could say those are clones. And I've had this idea of them being Sith loyalists. Maybe they're being led by a Sith. And that would give the Jedi in this Mandalorian time period someone to fight and the Imperials a face that is actually menacing, unlike Thrawn, who looks like Elon Musk and is written by Dave Filoni, so he's not intelligent or threatening at all. But this is like fanfic that I'm doing on behalf of Disney because they've done such a terrible job with this sequel trilogy. And I feel like the longer Disney are making Star Wars projects, the more their version of Star Wars is going to get messed up and they're going to write themselves into more and more corners and they're just not going to have anywhere to go. But the article continues. And of course, Kylo Ren has found a deep connection with another Force user named Rey. Why? Why do they have a deep connection? Because their minds were linked by Snoke, or at least that's what is said in The Last Jedi. And then all of a sudden in the third film, they're actually a Force dyad. Oh. All of this is swirling around his emotional matrix, making him deeply unstable, angry, frustrated, dangerous. He's looking for any form of guidance he can get, even if he won't admit it. I guess that explains why he's so quick to just accept Palpatine in The Rise of Skywalker, I guess. But are you telling me Luke never told him how bad Palpatine was? Or he never learnt anything about the Jedi Purge or anything like that? Is that even mentioned in The Rise of Skywalker? I don't even know. I haven't seen that film. And so he turns to just about the only thing he's got left. The legacy of his grandfather, the Sith Lord Darth Vader. Okay. Remember in Return of the Jedi when Luke says, "I am a Jedi, like my father before me"? Does that sound like the kind of person who would impress upon Ben Solo that his grandfather's legacy is that of a Sith Lord and not a Jedi? Where is Ahsoka Tano? I guarantee she is going to interact with Ben Solo at some point because Dave Filoni, he loves the sequels, he loves his precious Ahsoka, so obviously she's going to be a big part of his journey at some point. And what, she never told Ben about how great of a Jedi or how good of a person Anakin used to be? This whole idea of him following in the footsteps of Vader or the legacy of his grandfather, which is that of a Dark Lord, it just feels so forced. And of course it is. Of course it's forced because The Force Awakens is not original. It's not very creative. And they're like, we need a Darth Vader type. So let's get this Kylo Ren. Oh, maybe he's inspired by Darth Vader. Maybe it's because that's his grandfather. And then they just never thought about it deeper than that. And that's why it ends up being so stupid. And it even says here, Darth Vader's shadow extends into the rise of the First Order. How? Why? That's so stupid. He shouldn't have anything to do with it. Shouldn't it be more about Palpatine? They don't seem to give a fuck about Vader. I have not once thought that the First Order cared about Darth Vader at all. Especially not if the galaxy at large knows that he betrayed the Emperor, which I'm not sure if they do. If it's mentioned in these films or if it's mentioned in these comics in the sequel era, like I seriously doubt it. I'm pretty sure Vader does know about Exegol, so why doesn't Anakin's Force Ghost, who's showing up a bunch in Ahsoka, who's showing up I'm sure in Luke's story at some point, why is he not telling Luke about this? Why is he not telling his precious Ahsoka? I'm kind of worried that Dave Filoni is going to make Anakin like the father in season 2 of Ahsoka. And then maybe there's going to be some other version of the son and then the daughter. God, that's going to be so cringe. Oh, actually, I'm pretty sure the daughter is supposed to be like Ahsoka. Or she's part Mortis God or something because of the owl and resurrection and all this stupid shit. Dave is so obsessed with his fucking OC that, oh my God, it's just so cringe. And then he invented the world between worlds just so she could survive. It's embarrassing. And apparently Kylo's dark obsession leads him to Mustafar. Is that in The Rise of Skywalker? I feel like he goes there in that movie. I don't know. But it also says, and what face from his past will guide him on his quest? In the time period in between The Last Jedi and The Rise of Skywalker, like what do you think that is? It's probably not, it can't be Anakin. Is it Sidious? Is he alive at this point? I've seen that scene where he's like, oh, I'm every voice inside your head. Is this what this is referring to? Maybe he thinks he's hearing Vader's voice on Mustafar, but it's actually Palpatine. Oh, fuck it. Fuck it. Who cares? Yeah, like, I don't know, man. Do you guys even care about this book, this comic? Are you gonna fucking read it? I doubt it. I wouldn't be surprised if this doesn't sell. But if it does, I mean, people are gonna buy it, but not a lot of people because people don't really read comics anymore. I feel like as the years go on, comic sales go down and down. Like it's been like that for years. But I'm sure this will sell a lot more than those Acolyte spin-off books. If I can find somewhere to read these for free, I might review some of these Disney canon sequel stuff. I just want to see it in comparison, but even then, I don't even want to bother. Like, I got better things to do. And I have also been thinking maybe I should finally watch The Rise of Skywalker and maybe I'll review it for you guys, who knows. I can't imagine any of this fake canon, this Disney Star Wars slop being interesting at all. Like any of the new books or comics being released in relation to the sequel trilogy, there's just no way they're interesting. There's no way they're going to be worth reading or even really add anything to the story. And as for the Force Dyad, I feel like it would have just worked way better if Rey was actually Ben Solo's sister and like they hid her away from him because they were scared he would bring her to Snoke and they would fall both of them to the dark side. If they were smart, they would have done something like that and then have her story mirror Luke's, where it's like the Jedi that are remaining, Ben and Yoda, are going to train him to defeat these Dark Lords. And they could have done that with Rey, but they just didn't think of anything really. I'll definitely be keeping an eye on the shills on YouTube, especially when they inevitably get into this book, this comic, and hype it up and say it's the best thing ever for Star Wars, it's God's gift to Star Wars, and it's better than anything George Lucas ever did, because these people fucking suck and they're fake fans. Let me know what you think about all this shit. Is there anything in the Disney canon, the fake canon, that you guys want me to check out? I will do a review of this stuff if you guys actually care. Or if you guys care enough to make me suffer through this degenerate, fake, fraudulent Star Wars material. I'm only half being serious about the comic stuff, but I am pretty serious about doing a review of Rise of Skywalker if I ever really get around to watching that. Again, I don't really want to suffer through it. I've heard it's pretty shit. And I already know a lot about what happens in it anyway, so it probably won't be that interesting of a review. And yeah, that's all I really had to say. God, the state of Disney Star Wars just gets worse and worse. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. I'm Narrow Dark. Be sure to like and subscribe. I'll catch you guys later.